Yep.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order. City Council meeting for the City of Holiday Island. Regular meeting, August 17th, 2021. Let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Councilman Pittman.
Here.
Councilman Mills.
Here.
Councilmember Graves.
Here.
Councilmember Elwood.
Here.
Councilmember Dumas.
Here.
All present.
All right,
Mr. Mayor.
I declare a quorum. Any questions on the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Lynn made the motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ken seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. We do have minutes to approve. We have the minutes from our July 13th workshop and the minutes from our July 20th meeting that Wes distributed. Are there any questions about the minutes? Any corrections?
I had some changes for the July 20th meeting.
Okay, how about on July 13?
Nothing for me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, under number 1, the resolution 23, actually, we have an incorrect spelling of Mr. Balance's name the second time it was used in the paragraph. So it should be spelled Ballance.
Oh, and that, okay.
And also, for the sentence right before that spelling that says the contract proposed for this service is posted on the city website, it should be information about the grant opportunity is posted on the city website. There is no contract yet.
That was where?
That was right before the second spelling of Mr. Balance's name in the middle of the paragraph, where it was spelled with a B.
Where it says the contract proposed for this service?
Yes.
Cross that and replace it with?
Information about the grant opportunity is posted on the city website. And then, when you get done with that, have another one. Oh, I made it corrected. I have made the corrections into the Word document that I can send you after the meeting if you don't want to write them down.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, the next place was the number 4, report on ward creation workshop. The sentence in the middle of the paragraph that begins, ward maps were provided the next day and population estimates were, and I think the sentence should read, population estimates were determined to support an ordinance to establish the ward maps. The way it was worded didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Okay. Where you're saying ward maps were provided
The next day,
the next day.
and population estimates were determined to support an ordinance to establish water maps. And then following that, the next sentence talks about distribution of the ordinance, and I think that should be rewritten to say, the ordinance proposed will be posted on city bulletin boards as well as the city website and social media.
Get that wording from them
Mhm.
later.
Yeah, you can get that wording from me. I'll send that to you.
So, yeah, Linda, if you would just change the Word document and send it to Wes before we post it. All right, with those corrections, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from July 13th and July 20th?
I'll move that we approve the July 13 minutes and the amended July 20 minutes.
Lynn made the motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Jerry seconded it, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
When did we post these?
as soon as they get corrected.
No, I mean, I never saw them.
Post what?
He sent minutes.
I put them in the meeting document file before, the July just came out this afternoon, so, July 20th just came this afternoon, I think. So I put it on the website before we came to the meeting, but it was in everyone's email today, this afternoon.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to revise procedures as to how we're doing minutes. And I've sent them to Dan for him to review, but he depends more on the councilman, so when I send them out, I'll send it to the council ahead of time for review, and if you have any corrections, let me know.
I don't remember ever getting it. If it didn't come out till this afternoon, I never saw it.
Yeah.
I don't sit there and I'm looking at that damn
I
thing
think
all
they
day.
may have lost the Zoom.
Well, hopefully
Oh,
that'll
well,
be
yeah.
sooner.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Should we just see?
I just
It
got
says-
late last
it
week
says
and then I
connection.
sent them to
Oh, here it
Dan,
is, we're back.
and not the council, but in the future I'll send them to the council.
Okay, thank you.
I got it back. Maybe it was just Kathy joining.
I don't like to come to the meeting, approve the minutes I never saw.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Linda's network connection's a little bit unstable, but it keeps coming back. I have a monitor going at my home on my internet connection. I've had 91 disconnects in the last 6 days, amounted to over half an hour worth of time, so Cox must be having trouble with their internet. But it keeps coming back, so we just keep going.
Okay,
I think we're good now.
did we vote on approving the minutes?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
we did.
lost track of where we were. All right, ceremonials, recognitions, proclamations, and memoriam. I'd like to bring up that Kim Safransky passed away. We probably know Mary more so than Tim, because for the last couple of years, Tim's kind of been a shut-in. But Tim and Mary are longtime Holiday Island residents. They had an accounting business, and they were very active in the Holiday Island Singers. Going back far enough, Tim was a golfer. And more recently, they donated to the city their very, very nice printer. When they closed down their accounting business, they donated their printer to the city, which I use virtually every day. So I don't know any of the arrangements or anything yet for Tim's services. Terry talked to Mary this afternoon, but he was a nice guy, and he'll be missed. Any other ceremonials, recognitions, proclamations? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Mayor, one of the minutes, it mentioned that proclamation that the lady forgot to leave.
Yeah,
Do we have that back?
no.
Okay.
I'm gonna put the stickers on the signs and we'll try to
Okay.
we'll try to catch it on Arbor Day next year instead of waiting until later in the year. Do we have a financial report?
Yes. And I had sent those out. First, shall I go back? I think I wasn't here the last meeting, and you didn't take any action on the June financials. Were there any questions?
No.
Okay. How about on July? Any questions on that? Where we ended up in July with $79,000 in the general fund and $65,000 in the street fund.
So we're running ahead of what we initially budgeted, except, you know, we missed the first 3 months.
On a month-by-month basis, we're running ahead, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the year.
Yeah.
And in the general fund, it's primarily the sales tax is running ahead.
Yeah. I keep
So
reading.
I'm thinking, I communicated to Dan, you know, we didn't get any turnbacks for January, February, or March. But the way it's running, and if the sales tax holds up, by the end of the year, our general fund revenue will probably be within 90% of what our original budget was. And in the street fund, we could end up ahead there.
Yeah.
it would probably be worth noting that we didn't budget getting any of the county property tax for roads, the share that's supposed to come back to the cities. We didn't budget for any for this year because we didn't know what the outcome would be of our discussions with the county, but between our attorney, their attorneys, and discussions that we've had, we believe that we have an agreement with the county that they do owe us that property tax for roads this year. So we're, in September, we would expect to see our first check, and we'll.
Well, it could be next month, because I think they distribute monthly, and I assume they're receiving payments monthly.
So next month, September.
Now,
Yeah, they will actually give us distribution for the August elections.
Well,
Hopefully.
yeah,
mhm.
and hopefully going back to January.
Yeah, well, they said that they would give us all we had coming, so.
Yeah. Now, with that said, does anybody have any questions on the financials?
No.
We don't spend a lot of time looking at budget versus actual year-to-date, you know, forecasts and stuff like that. I think going forward, you know, at least before we get into the budget process for next year, we probably want to do more of that. We come up with a system of being able to
Once you
track performance to budget.
once you get that loaded on the accounting software, it'll be there.
Yeah, it'll be there.
Yeah.
And then,
And hopefully, I am told we've received some of the supplies, but not much. We don't have the check printer yet, but that they were gonna start the end of August and work with us, get some of it loaded and get it going early September. I hope that happens.
Yeah.
we are getting questions about, you know, you budgeted this much and we don't see what you're doing and everything, so we do need to, I mean, we post the financials every month on the website, so people can see what our account balances are against the budget. But what they don't get is an explanation if, you know, if we're not spending what we said we were gonna spend, why not? And if we appear to be spending too much, what are we doing about it? And stuff like that. So we'll try to get some kind of a report out before the end of the year so that going into next year we have that month by month performance to budget number to look at. Generally speaking, the money is coming in and we're not really spending anything. Most of the expenditures in the general fund are scheduled for the end of the year when we make the payment for the fire department. That's going to be the big chunk. And as far as the roads, with the district and the city agreeing to suspend the paving program for this year, that money is just going to roll over into next year and be used to for the city match on the big grant project. So we're doing good. We just haven't communicated the plan very well to the public. Okay, standing committees, planning commission. Lynn, I asked Lynn to just for the record, for the public and for the record, to just give a little brief summary of where the planning commission is at.
We met last Tuesday and passed 8 resolutions basically setting up our planning commission as far as officers and how we'll conduct business, how we're going to report what we do.
Budget.
And the budget, the fact that we have to budget amounts and we have to have authorization from the city council before they spend money. Since then, I've been working on the next step in the project of working on the planning map, trying to find out what we need for information to populate that with what we have that we find in our declarations of reservations. And there's been some, I guess, some thought put into that. And the Suburban Improvement District has existed for 50 years, and the zones in our community have been defined by unit block and lot designations. So we'll probably use that kind of a designation rather than a neighborhood or create something new and have to be cross-referenced. So we'll do that for continuity of identification. During our campaign for incorporation, we campaigned on protecting the current constraints of those covenants. So that has to be, I think, our mission as we move forward in working on the plans for ordinances and regulations that support the planning map and the master plan. So I have done a little bit of research on that and found that on the Carroll County website, on the assessor site, they have 71 units listed, and of those 71, 36 of those units, I don't have a copy of a covenant for it. So we'll have to do some investigation with the county or with the planning commission that's up the street to see if they have copies of them. That's all I have.
Okay. And because they're on the Carroll County website, that means there are properties on the tax roll with those with a legal description that includes that unit block and stuff like that. So another little bit of information that we'll have to find out is where there's gaps in the numbers that have been assigned. What was the intended use for those numbers that haven't been used? There's some logic to how numbers were assigned. You know, ones are basically the units. The unit numbers, like 101 and stuff like that, tend to be in a particular area. Or like the island, a lot of the units start with 200. Maybe all of the units start with 200.
No, we're in unit 117
Okay.
and 118.
We're 110.
Maybe 200 is up in Bluffstead.
No, that's
anyway, there
300.
seems to be some logic to how the unit numbers were assigned, and we're going to have to understand what that logic is, because someday it will be the city planning commission assigning those numbers. And, you know, things pop up all the time that we say, hey, oh yeah, we're gonna have to do that long-term. Like one that I thought of the other day, as I think that the current planning commission assigns the street numbers. And so we need to know what that is. Where's their master list of street numbers? And is there a street number assigned to every single plotted lot in Holiday Island already? Or is that something that we have to figure out if somebody wants to build a house and have a street number? So there's a lot of, there's big picture things. There's also a lot of little detailed things that we need to figure out too. So, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. And, you know, I think we covered in the planning commission meeting that before we can start passing ordinances enforcing things like zoning, you know, and things like that, we have to have the planning maps. That's step one. So, as soon as we get past that, then we can start passing ordinances.
I was looking at some things today too, things that I have to do, and I think there was a comment that when you pass ordinances, you need to give me 3 copies or maybe ahead of time.
Well, we said in our formation documents that we will recommend ordinances to the city council by a resolution process. So we'll have a resolution that the planning commission has decided there's a need for an ordinance, and there'll be an ordinance attached to it. That'll be brought to the city council for its approval. So the city planning commission won't be passing ordinances,
Okay.
just recommending them.
Okay. Special committees, broadband grant application. Jerry, you want to update us on where we are on that?
Yeah, I talked to Rodney Balance, who is the gentleman that's handling the grant application. We're proceeding on that. He had an interesting conversation with a business owner up across 23 in the Park Streets, or whatever, I can't remember what street that is, but who had requested the possibility of improved internet there quicker than what the fiber optic project that we're trying to get. And he expressed, Rodney, the possibility of wireless through antennas point to point, where he has line of sights as some relief for people, if possible. And I'm going to get him hooked up with the new city district manager to see whether he can work out a deal with them to use the water towers to get up as high as he can, and see if there might be some people he can give some immediate relief to. So that's a bit of good news. As far as the grant, we're part of the, he's working with the county, Holiday Island, Eureka, and Green Forest grants, and he's found a grant writer that's going to be a big help, or is a big help, and we hope to have that submitted sometime early September.
There's an awful lot of information floating around on the, you know, on the relief package or whatever it is that, you know.
American Rescue Plan Act.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of money there, but
Big piles.
yeah.
And, you know, he feels very confident we'll get the engineering study. Now, the next step, you know, there's going to be a big grab for that, but anyway, that's a bit of good news about possibility of doing some point-to-point wireless where he can.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the rescue plan money, of course, we're not in the automatic disbursement of payment 1 and payment 2.
Right. So, any money that we're gonna get, we have to ask for, outside of the program. And,
Has to be redesignated by the state.
yeah, we'd have to get the governor or somebody to shove a little money our way. But I'm still confident that we can do that, because I think everybody realizes that we got screwed. So, and that gets me to the next thing on the agenda, the Arkansas Department of Agriculture survey on water system infrastructure needs. I think we mentioned this maybe in the last meeting, but if not, the governor has a task force that's studying ways of spending all this money. The American Rescue Plan Act money, and there's also money left over yet from the $1 trillion one before that they're finding out that it's really kind of hard to spend a couple of $1 trillion. You got to work at it.
Well, I can take it to Vegas.
This committee, the steering committee, asked the Department of Agriculture to do a survey, take a survey of what water and wastewater infrastructure needs are in the state. They wanted to see one kind of rolled up number. You know, is it $1 billion? Is it $10 billion? Is it $100 billion? What is the number? And so the Department of Agriculture did put out this survey, and in listening to several meetings about it with the municipal league, it became clear that the city could work with a district to use that money, whatever money would come from that, because there's a lot of cities that don't operate the sewer and water.
Right.
Cherokee
Village does.
Right, and we don't. So that it was made clear that the city can work with a district to either appropriate the funds or to sub-grant the funds, depending on how they're allocated. So I got with the district, Danny Presley and Lawrence Blood and I went over and met with ESI, the engineering company that works for the district. And they already knew all about this survey, because they work with a lot of cities they're in Springdale. They work with a lot of cities in northwest Arkansas. They were already working on filling out the survey for some of their other client cities. So they jumped right on this, and they don't, when they get involved in a grant project like this, they don't charge the district, and they won't be charging the city to do the engineering whatever engineering is needed up front to do things like fill out the survey and to apply for the actual funds. They bank on us getting the grant money, and then they manage the project and take their cut out of managing the project. So they were very willing and eager to do that. We discussed what the major needs were in the district here. It kind of boiled down to finishing getting the pressure regulating valves in. That I think there's still 5 left to be installed yet. We've been kind of on the verge of getting that project done for about 3 or 4 years now. And so with our limited staff in the water department, having them do the installation on those valves is holding things back. So we included that in the estimate, and then we, based on the fact that the data shows that the majority of the leaks are on 4-inch mains and on service lines, we decided to define the project as replacing not all of the 4-inch mains, but probably, I'm gonna guess, at least 70% of the 4-inch mains in Holiday Island. The justification would be to mitigate water loss and to replace old, 50-year-old pipe material that just isn't holding up. So it's a rehabilitation with the benefit of mitigating our water loss. The estimate on that was $7.5 million. So we are going to have to, that's the number we went with though. We're not trying to hide anything, and I think it's about time that we put a dollar figure on what it's gonna cost to fix the problem, and that's the dollar figure. Of course, that would include replacing the 4-inch line with 6-inch line, heavier gauge pipe, replacing the service lines as we hook the customers back up to those 6-inch mains, and then repaving the roads that those mains are buried in.
Dan, will it also include rebedding the lines?
That's kind of a given that
Okay.
when they put the new 6-inch line in, they would bed it properly. So,
Put it in sleeves. Would they put it in sleeves?
I don't think so.
I don't
If
think
it's 6-inch pipe, the proper wall gauge material in proper bedding, I don't think it would be a problem at all. The abrasion problem with the existing water lines is because there's rocks in the bedding material.
Not the right type of material.
When the pipe is laying on top of a rock, for 50 years.
And it's limestone.
Are you gonna replace, they said you're gonna replace all the service lines too? Because that's where most of the leaks are.
It's where a good portion of them are, but I wouldn't go so far as to say it's most of them.
Most of the holes I see are service line.
But yes, it would be, when they hook those new mains up to the meters, they would put in the proper service lines. The next step is we're gonna have to take that and break it down into digestible phases, because I don't think that there's much chance of us getting $7.5 million in one shot, just asking for it. But there might be a good chance of getting 2 or 3 million, so we can break the project down into phases, like do the area around Danube down in that low area, that high pressure area, do that area, and then maybe another phase would be to do Mission Hills. Between those two areas, that's where the majority of the leaks are. So anyway, we're still working on that for when Bob Dyer gets back next week. We're gonna sit down and look at the project and see how we can break it down into more reasonable sized projects, and then write it up in some format and get it in the hands of Senator Ballinger and Representative Breaux and our contacts inside the governor's office, and see if we can get some money allocated to us outside of the automatic windfall that the cities are getting.
Dan, will this be discussed at the next HICID meeting,
I don't know what their...
which is next week, I think?
It's next week. I haven't seen their agenda. I don't know.
I mean, does the board have to approve any of this?
There was a question on the survey that said, would you be willing to share in the funding? In other words, would you be willing to do an 80-20 split, which is the normal split on grants like that? Although it didn't say that, it was just a kind of a generic question. You know, are you willing to share in the cost, yes or no? And ESI said that their opinion was that if you check no, your request goes on a different pile.
I can see that.
So we checked yes. So before we would move forward with a specific request that might get an okay stamp on it, we would have to know that we could cover between the city and the district, that we would be able to cover whatever match might be required.
Okay.
So yes, that would require approval of the BOC, and if the city was going to provide any other match, then the city council would have to approve that.
But in the Department of Agriculture's explanations that they put out, they continually emphasize that these are not applications for
Right.
funds. They're only gathering information to see what the needs are.
So it doesn't hurt anything to check the box, I'm sure.
Yeah. As soon as this, you know, the sooner after the steering committee sees all of this need, the sooner we get an actual grant application in front of somebody.
And it sounded
The
like
better
they
off
wanted to
we're gonna be.
move pretty quick to get this stuff rolling.
Now, I believe the instructions to the cities that did get the automatic grant money and were intending to use it, or not grant money, but the automatic COVID money. And if they were intending to use that money for water and wastewater infrastructure, that they were instructed to put it in the survey anyway. So there's a certain amount of double dipping probably built into the survey. And that would probably come to light if their request actually turned into, I mean, if their survey actually turned into a request. If part of that was already funded with COVID money, that would probably be locked off right away. Whereas we don't have anything to contribute towards it.
And
So,
none of this money can be used for work that was done before March 3rd.
Pay old bills, in other words.
Yeah,
Right.
and they can't use it to pay off debt either, if it's for work before the specific date. Now, I think the department was wanting this information in, last week,
last Friday,
last Friday?
they
So
sent it
that-
in Wednesday or Thursday. So it definitely made the deadline. It was interesting, I was watching Springfield News the other day, and they were interviewing the water department guy, and they have a big project going on right now where they're replacing water mains in some area of Springfield. And he said that the city of Springfield has an annual budget of $5 million to replace water mains.
That's it.
They budget $5 million a year to replace water mains. So, nice to be a big city. And of course, they probably have more than 70 miles of water lines too. All right. We don't have any old business. New business, we have ordinance 2021-007, establishing wards.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we put ordinance 21-007 on the floor for discussion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Lynn made a motion to put ordinance 2021-004,
07.
07 on the floor for discussion. Pat seconded it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. This is a short ordinance, so I'll go ahead and read it. An ordinance establishing wards for the city of Holiday Island, Arkansas. Whereas Arkansas Code annotated ACA 1444 101 states that as soon as practicable after an incorporated town becomes a city of the second class, the city council shall form the city into the number of wards that to it will seem to best serve the interest of the city. And whereas said code also states that it shall be the duty of the council to see that each ward has as nearly an equal population as to each of the other wards as would best serve the interest of the taxpayers of the city. And whereas on the 23rd day of March 2021, the Secretary of the State of Arkansas certified Holiday Island to be a city of the second class. And whereas the estimated population of the wards are Ward 1, 721, Ward 2, 740, and Ward 3, 796, now be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Holiday Island, Arkansas, that the City of Holiday Island, Arkansas shall be organized into 3 wards according to the map and legal descriptions attached to this ordinance, and that upon approval of this ordinance, the attached map and legal description will be filed with the clerk of Carroll County, Arkansas. And the final statement is passed and approved by the City Council of Holiday Island, Arkansas on this date of, but we're going to do 3 readings on this ordinance, so that date will remain blank until the 3rd reading. And if you look at, for those of you who have a copy of the ordinance, the legal description and the ward map is attached to the ordinance. Is there any discussion on this? This is basically the result of our workshop.
Well, yeah, we went over this in pretty detail, we had the workshop.
Right.
And this, I don't think it's changed.
If there's no need for further discussion, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the ordinance.
Do we approve it, or do we read
Approve
it 2
the
more
first
times?
reading.
We approve the first reading.
Oh, okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the first reading.
I'll
Pat made a
second.
motion that we approve the first reading of ordinance 2021-007.
I'll second.
Ken Mills seconded it. Roll call vote.
Okay. Councilmember Dumas.
Aye.
Councilmember Elwood.
Aye.
Councilmember Graves.
Aye.
Councilmember Mills.
Aye.
Councilmember Pittman.
Aye.
All in favor, Your Honor.
Okay. Then we will take this up again in our next meeting.
There's a lot of stuff going on about, the Census Bureau has released the 2020 data. And I, when I talked to Connie, we were talking to Connie, she kind of talked like, they wanted to use 2020 data.
I don't know that the county clerk
Can make that
has
decision.
a horse in the race.
Yeah. I don't know if
The
she.
law says that it's up to the city council
Well,
to make the determination. We got the population estimate from the Arkansas Geographical Information Service.
yeah.
I believe that until there are official census numbers published, then there's,
Well, they published them someplace, I just don't know, they were publishing, in the paper,
Yeah.
the cities.
there was something came out through the municipal league today about it that generated about 16 emails that said that the numbers were all wrong. So somebody took the data from the Census Bureau that was hard to follow and figure out, I guess, and downloaded it into Excel. And there's a reasonable amount of questions as to whether or not that data came across, accurately. There were several people have already said that
Oh, boy.
that it can't be right, so.
I opened a link from the Municipal League and went to the website, and it had Holiday Island as a census designated place.
Right.
So it's not even appropriate for our boundary.
Not even close.
Right,
That's
so
why
we
we
would
went
have
to
to do another
GIS.
population estimate, and,
I don't, yeah, I don't, you know, that should, you know, that's what she was talking about.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't come up, good.
yeah, I mean, the original, the first numbers that came out from the Census Bureau showed that the population of the Holiday Island census designated place only changed by 20 people,
Yeah,
which means it would have zero impact whatsoever
yeah.
on this analysis. However, the spreadsheet, the Excel spreadsheet that came out today said that the Holiday Island census designated place population was
2533.
2533.
That means we'll get more money.
And if you apply the same ratio that the Census Bureau or that GIS used to determine our population before, to estimate our population, then that would put our population right now at 2,412 or something like that. And I was all happy about that until I saw the long list of emails about how this can't be right, that can't be right.
Okay.
Except that we don't want to hit 2,500, do we?
Well, that's what I said to Wes, is that the good news might be that we'll get more turnback money because we have more people. The bad news is we're getting dangerously close to 2,500 people,
Yeah.
which is the tipping point to go to a city of the first class, and we're not ready for that. But I guess we'd have 10 years to worry about it
No, yeah,
until the next census.
Yeah.
that's true.
And I don't know that that change is automatic either. There
No.
was somebody questioned that at a clerk's thing that I attended last week, and they said, well, if you go over that, doesn't mean that you're gonna be a city of first class.
Yeah, cities by ordinance can elect to stay a city of the second class.
I don't think so.
Oh,
I've seen something that says that a city of the second class can request to be upgraded to a city of the first class.
Well,
Like Eureka Springs is a city of the first class, but they only have 2,000 people. But I've never seen anything that said you can stay a city of the second class.
yeah.
Okay.
The whole point of the municipal league putting these numbers out was so that people had budget numbers to start estimating their turnback money for next year and stuff like that. And but there was a big disclaimer on it that said none of these numbers are official until the Treasury Department says they're official. So I just kind of put it all on the back burner again. We're going with the 2010 census and the most recent
Now,
population estimate.
I had a question on these wards. If people are wanting to look at something and have questions, where do they look? And at first I was thinking that, well, if we pass this tonight, I would post the ordinance on our posting boards, but that's not the case, because if I post it, it's law.
You don't post it yet, it's not approved.
Right.
This is posted on the web, the description and the map are both on the web, on our city website.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been out there for everybody to
It
see.
is, the map itself is a PDF, and so it's enlargeable, so you can make it bigger, so you can see the detail of the street and the color breaks.
I think it's very impressive to have this map, because you can really see exactly where you are based upon looking you up on one of the streets, whatever street you live on. You can see what ward you're on very easily.
Yeah. And then on wards?
Yep.
All right, moving on to ordinance number 2021-008. An ordinance to permit the on-premises sale and consumption of liquor by the drink in the city of Holiday Island, Arkansas. Do I have a motion to put it on the floor for consideration?
I move that we put on the floor ordinance number 2021-008.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
Opposed? The ayes have it. Jerry, this is your baby. You want to read it?
I will do. Ordinance number 2021-008, an ordinance to permit the on-premises sale and consumption of liquor by the drink in the city of Holiday Island, Arkansas. Whereas there are restaurants and establishments within the city of Holiday Island which are in need of an ordinance permitting the sale of liquor by the drink in order to obtain the required alcoholic beverage control, ABC, permit to sell liquor by the drink, and whereas the ability of those establishments to obtain a permit to sell liquor by the drink will be financially beneficial and will help them be more competitive with similar businesses in other cities in the region, and whereas Arkansas Code annotated
Same one I'm reading.
you have to check your email before
You
you
didn't
come.
check your email this afternoon.
I turned it yesterday.
Whereas Arkansas Code annotated 3-9-203D1 provides that cities of the first and second class may authorize by city ordinance the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premises consumption under the subchapter if the city is located in a county that has authorized the sale of intoxicating liquor, and whereas Carroll County has approved such sales in the county, and Holiday Island became a city of the second class on March 23rd, 2021, and whereas in order to provide a safe environment for the sale and provision of alcohol, as well as to comply with applicable state law and to promote the orderly operation of business, the City Council adopts the following regulations. Now be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Holiday Island, Arkansas, that Section 1, the sale of liquor by the drink at restaurants, which meet the definition of a restaurant, is found in Title 4, Subtitle B, Section 4.6 of the ABC regulations, and said establishments have obtained the required ABC permit allowing for the sale and consumption of liquor by the drink on premises, is hereby authorized within the city limits of the city of Holiday Island, Arkansas. The definitions of the terms of this ordinance shall be consistent with those found in Arkansas Code annotated 3-1-101 of the most recent Arkansas Code. Section 2, all sales shall be permitted 7 days a week between the hours of 11 a.m. and midnight. Section 3, the city of Holiday Island recognizes that the sale and consumption of alcohol by the drink is thoroughly regulated by the state of Arkansas, and nothing in this ordinance shall contradict the laws of Arkansas from the most current state code and or the regulations of the ABC. Passed and approved by the City Council of Holiday Island, Arkansas on this date of August 17, 2021.
Well, again, the date will be blank because we're gonna do this one in 3 readings on the next schedule, so we'll get to that.
Jerry, show you how little I know about this thing. Just out of curiosity, the permit is actually gonna come from the state.
From the ABC.
So do we as a city have any responsibility to like check their sales, or
No.
that's all done by the state?
They apply for the permit, and as long as they pay the taxes and meet the requirements of that permit.
Other than $5,000 permit.
So we don't have to go down there and make sure they're mixing the.
Here, don't you need a mask on?
No, I was just looking at that 3 to 1.
We can set hours and what all, but, I mean, that's really all we do.
Like, we don't have to do any policing whatsoever.
Well, I mean, you know, in some cities, they have the police force out where alcohol's being consumed at closing hours, but no.
Well, police or our deputies can check.
Well, yeah, they enforce state law, but I mean, we don't have to.
No.
But the only thing I've ever seen them do is check for underage drinking and that, you know, there's police.
Underage drinking, I'll let it go. I'm sorry.
I would have to say, and that was pretty rich. That was a good one.
I have no questions on it after I saw you revise it, that I did when I was reading it the first time.
So we're gonna read it again next time. We still have to have a motion to,
I have a
Make a
question.
motion, we approve it.
Whoa,
Well,
whoa, whoa. Can we have some more discussion on it?
yes,
Yes, please.
Well, you know, you and I talked briefly about how we can expedite this, and I think you had some ideas you mentioned just a second ago. I mean, you wanna put those out now?
can we call it?
I can, yeah, I can, it basically comments that came from our attorney, Justin, which, by the way, our attorney did review this, and he made some edits to it, which is why there was a addition that came out late this afternoon.
And it was also vetted by the ABC, who signed off on it as well, so.
So, when Jerry first brought this up, I was nervous about the fact that there may be a lot of things that we don't know about this. You know, that it may not be as simple as just passing a simple ordinance. But I have been convinced that it is just as simple as passing an ordinance. Now, you can make this as complicated as you want to be, because I looked at P Ridge, and in P Ridge's municipal code, they have, I think it's 18 pages dedicated to this.
Well, and most of that, and one of the ones I looked at from Farmington and Elkins, they repeated, as part of their municipal code, the actual language of those state codes.
Yeah, they were just cut and pasting the ABC requirements into their municipal code, which to me is just, you know, word stuffing. And, you know, we don't need to do that. Justin did bring up that if we wanted to, we could have included in with this the authorization for off-site or off-premises consumption, in other words, liquor stores, and that the city could authorize that at the same time.
I thought you said at the last meeting we couldn't do that.
Well, I asked Justin that question. I said, I thought the county regulated how many, you know, packaged good permits there were available, and that the common, or the rumor is in Carroll County that the churches bought up a lot of them to limit the number of liquor stores that you can have. I don't know if that's true or not, but I guess we could probably find out. But he said that if we had it in our ordinance, well, first of all, nobody would be able to open a liquor store in Holiday Island without us having it in an ordinance. So if somebody wants to someday, and they think that they can get a permit, then we'll have to pass another ordinance. But he said that, you know, our passing an ordinance could prompt somebody to go to ABC, and the number of permits that are issued for off-premises consumption is based on a ratio of population. So many facilities per so many people. And with the new census and everything else, he said there may be, you know, Carroll County may be justified more licenses. So just because we put it in here doesn't mean that somebody can get a permit to open up a liquor store.
So
But it could crack the door open for somebody to try.
But it sounds like the county is the area of record for determining how many licenses, and it doesn't matter about a city.
For
Like
package goods.
Eureka Springs has 3 or 4 liquor stores.
Mhm. They got in there really quick before the churches bought them all.
Well, I would say that we would want to add that at this time.
No, I told Justin that the draft ordinance that he sent back to me had it in there, and I said, I'm gonna take that back out, because I don't think we're ready to address that right now. He also said that all cities have a privilege license, which is a nice way of saying they make you cough up a little money to be able to sell liquor. And I said we were gonna leave that out for now too.
Yeah, and
That someday we may do that, but right now, we're not in this
yeah,
for
but
the city to make money.
the three that I looked at all had business permits that
Yeah,
establishments had to have, but we don't have that.
right, that's what I told
I think this
Justin.
is an economic thing.
We want them to compete with Eureka Springs.
Yeah, and I mean, they've made a substantial, them and other restaurant owners that have opened here have made substantial investments, and, you know, I want to throw it out for discussion whether this is eligible for a emergency. It may not be, but I think it's, you know, and Tan and Jerry are here. If you've got any questions, or would entertain listening to them about
What are the requirements again for it to call it an emergency? Just we call it an emergency?
Just, we call it an emergency, but we've been advised by at least the municipal league to not make everything an emergency. But what I was going to suggest we do with this is call a special meeting for 2 weeks from now to have the second reading on this, and then in the September meeting, we can have the third reading. And in the meantime, we have to pass an ordinance that Justin is going to send me. That's called a referendum ordinance. State law requires that once we pass an ordinance, that it doesn't go into effect for 90 days, unless the city passes a referendum ordinance that says that it can go into effect in 30 days. 30 days is the least that the law allows. So, and I don't know if that is dependent on the type of ordinance that you're trying to pass. You know, it was my understanding that if you declared something an emergency, that it was effective immediately on approval. Now with Justin talking about this referendum ordinance thing, I gotta do a little more studying on that. Either way, we're not declaring this an emergency, so it'll take effect 30 days after our third reading.
So,
Could we-
more about that referendum ordinance, would every ordinance you pass, after you pass that referendum ordinance, go into effect in 30 days rather than 90?
I'll know more about that when I
So
see
you don't
the
know.
referendum ordinance and talk to Justin more about it. It's the first, when I talked to him this afternoon, it was the first that I heard of any such thing, so we're kind of learning as we go here. But I think that's the fastest that we can act on this. would
Well,
be-
I'll just say that we call it back whereas the ability of establishment to obtain a permit to benefit them financially and will help them to be more competitive with similar businesses in other cities, that was taken from the Farmington ordinance and as their reason for calling an emergency. Now, you know,
Do we have an emergency? I don't think we do. Do we?
well,
Could we, in 2 weeks, could we wait the second reading and pass the third?
I don't know if that's possible or
Or do we have to wait 2 weeks?
not. I mean, when I was on the HICID board, sometimes we did all 3 readings in one meeting.
Well, read it again.
In other meetings, we suspended the readings, and then we've declared some emergencies.
We
Why don't
did that
just-
for the planning commission.
Yes, I think we voted to suspend the rule, and it had an emergency clause in it too. So it became effective on that day.
I think if
And I
we
modeled
get it-
that after
if
a
we
couple
get
of
it
other ordinances that I found
passed
from Arkansas cities.
by the September, I see no problem with that.
Yeah, I think in this particular, I understand the urgency from a business owner standpoint, but I also am anticipating that there may be people in Holiday Island that are opposed to this. And if we pass it on an emergency basis with no public hearing, no public discussion whatsoever,
Good point.
I think we're asking for trouble. So I think the best we can do is, it is possible that at the next meeting, we could, in a week or 2 weeks, we could schedule a special meeting, do the second and third reading in the same meeting, and pass the referendum ordinance.
That's,
Has anybody had any comment from anybody in the public? This has been on the agenda that was posted last week.
I think.
I have a comment. Section 2 says it shall be permitted 7 days a week. I come from a community, 2 separate communities that did not have sales of alcohol on Sundays. And is the 7 day a week in Arkansas permit? Is it copied from that? It's already permitted?
Yes.
Okay,
Eureka Springs has
Eureka has
7
it.
days a week.
okay.
In a tourist town or tourist area, you almost have to.
I have a question for Jerry and Hannah if they want to go to the podium.
I'll let her go.
She's a recovering lawyer.
Didn't have to bring that up, Dan.
There is no such thing.
All right, I'm at the podium.
Yeah.
You just speak
I have
into the
a
mic.
question. So once this ordinance passes, do you still have to go back to the ABC board and apply for a permit at that time? Do you have
Yes.
to wait until it passes before
Yes.
you can submit for a permit?
My understanding is there were a couple of ways that we could serve liquor by the drink. One of them involved a very complicated nonprofit with membership. I didn't even hardly let the attorney for ABC get much of it out because it really sounded way more
Yeah,
complicated.
he mentioned that to me, that you declare yourself a private club,
Yeah.
and, I mean, like what the Elks is operating under, what else I
Oh, you also.
That's the way every place in Arkansas used to be.
Yeah.
When I lived here the first time in the 80s, every Holiday Island was a private club.
There you go. So what we deemed would be the easier route would be an ordinance from the city, and fortunately, the city became a city. And so we still have to go through all of the application process for a liquor license. I've been reluctant to do a beer and wine license because I wanted to just do it all at once instead of going back and forth. And I kind of understand it's kind of a day in Little Rock or something to that extent. And the other thing is, well, first of all, thank you all for your service. I mean, it's incredible, and thank you so much for helping us with this. But we will have to go through the entire process, and that can take several months.
Well, that was gonna be my next question. How long do you think that takes?
We just don't know how long. I've heard anywhere from 3 to 6 months. I don't know if it will take that long. I've been generally good about filling out forms, so hopefully, we can get an application in there and get it moved through. And we've had, I think Jerry and I both have had several conversations with the attorney for ABC. So hopefully we can expedite that. Lynn, in relation to Sunday sales, one of our busiest days is Sunday. And so we're very hopeful to be able to have like mimosas and Bloody Marys for a brunch type offering on Sundays or the weekends in general. So while I understand that that could be a problem day for some, we also have 2 very experienced bartenders, and the comments about whether the city would be liable for any sort of issues with alcohol. I'm hopeful that our 2 will keep a pretty tight rein. Well, that they will. They're experienced and have been experienced in large volume bars.
In your setting, is there a requirement from your ABC permit that you separate who gets drinks from others? If there's a family with minors that are sitting right next to a table?
Well, I don't know as to a per table. Most of the time, what I understand and what I see, and this is more in Oklahoma, is that the actual bar part, 21 and over, can only get into that part. The way we have our restaurant set up right now, that could easily be cordoned off. Now, whether or not you could serve a family with children an alcoholic beverage, I can't imagine that there would be a restriction on that, but there could be. I just don't know.
It's all about appearances, you know, whether it's a table of 21-year-olds or it's a table of one 21-year-old and the rest of them are 18-year-old and they all look 21.
Well, carding people will be a big deal. We will not sell to minors. One of the vestiges of my recovering from being an attorney is I like to do things legally. But I would tell you.
Did you pick that up after you were?
Let me tell you, that's not every attorney's philosophy. Bending the law sometimes. But I would heartily endorse taking the time, not doing an emergency. We do want to do this right. We don't want any sort of loopholes that could be exploited.
Yeah, I think if we can get it signed off for 3 readings by the end of September and not do emergency, I don't want to do emergency.
Well, you know, but I understand Dan's point, but do we have to wait 2 weeks? Do we have like a special half-an-hour meeting and have in a week and then our final reading in September?
We could have a meeting next week and do the.
Because if she's got 3 months or more afterwards,
Yes, see, we're looking at the good
looking at the
possibility.
holidays, I mean,
We're looking at, it's possible, depending on what the state of Arkansas does, is it may be spring before we get a deal, and the longer it takes, it just is what it is. But we don't want to rock the boat. Whatever you guys feel like is comfortable, we will abide by it and back it 100%.
Dan, here's a thought. You could, if you're worried about the public not being able to know about this, why don't we just have a public hearing? And you know, post it as a special meeting or special meeting
Post
sort
as
of thing.
I would post it not as a hearing, but as
Workshop or whatever you want to call it.
just get as much advertising for the special
That's
meeting
what I'm saying.
as we can.
So that people know that this issue is on the table
right.
and they can hear about it at a meeting via Zoom, via public, whatever you want. That would take care of it, and then we could expedite the process.
I don't see what
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, we're going to be accused of people not knowing what we were doing.
Well, that's not on us, Dan.
I know, but that's life.
I think that would
that's life
solve
in
the problem,
public.
and it would take care of the issue. I mean, you know, we would be forthcoming, we'd have a public hearing available to anybody who wanted to make a comment about it for input into the decision-making process.
But this would be a special meeting then that you could take action?
Call it whatever you want. Yeah, well, you wouldn't have to. You could make it a workshop where you don't take action, or you could make it a special meeting.
You gotta have a meeting if you're gonna have a reading.
Mhm.
But if you make
I
it a
wouldn't-
special meeting just for this purpose,
I wouldn't do a workshop. I mean, I don't think that just calling it a workshop instead of a special meeting, I don't know that that makes any difference.
If you're
The
gonna have
point
an
is to
official reading.
advertise that it's for this specific purpose.
Yeah.
So the people
If
know
the
what we're
special
talking
meeting,
about.
if the special meetings can only be for the purpose that the meeting is called.
Yeah.
So if we have a special purpose meeting to consider the second and third reading of this ordinance, and we get all the advertising we can possibly get of that meeting, and then people will have an opportunity to make comments or whatever at that time, then we will be doing our due diligence, you know,
Exactly.
making sure that the public was informed as to what we were doing.
That's a good idea. I have a gut feeling we'll have about this many people show up.
Well, I do
but-
too.
Maybe,
But
maybe.
who knows? It may be a hotter button issue than I would have thought.
But at least you tried.
Yeah. You know, Holiday Island is a little bit different culturally than a lot of Arkansas probably,
You think?
because we all came here from someplace, and you said you have a lot of experienced bartenders. We have a lot of experience on the other side.
I just can't believe.
Are you saying my
Drum
shirt's
up
too
opposition to this. I mean, we fulfill all the requirements of notifying people. If we have a special meeting, we'll publicize the meeting, but to call it a public hearing or.
No,
No, just a
Let's call it a
special
special
meeting for the
meeting.
purposes.
we're just gonna call it a
But
special
in the-
meeting.
when we put it out there as a special meeting, you'll make in bold print to consider liquor by the drink.
Mhm.
Mhm. Then you can take, it's a legal meeting, and then you can take action.
I understand that. But we've had a couple other special meetings. Did we send them out with bold heads and?
Not necessarily.
No, but this is probably the first one that we've done that could potentially be controversial with some people.
Well, okay.
And if it is, we'll get it out in the open. And there will be people on
Well-
both sides speaking, I'm
Well,
sure.
we're not trying to hide it,
That's right.
but,
I ain't going looking for a fight, are you?
well, I mean, we were elected to
But anyway, I
make
think,
decisions and not to do everything by a town hall meeting.
having a
And
second
first
meeting
in,
and have a second
You
reading.
know, a
and
little
do
bit
the
of
third
opposition.
reading.
I'm talking, Ken,
Okay.
uh, you know, whatever the group wants.
That's the way to go.
I just think the second meeting with the second reading and have the third reading at the September meeting is good enough.
I'd just soon do both of them at the next special meeting.
I think
Get it over with.
And I don't disagree with that. I mean, the part I disagree with is to handle it any different than we would any issue that we're having a special meeting on.
Okay.
I mean, I understand you know, giving people an opportunity, but they had the opportunity today, and we will call a special meeting where it will be the only thing on the agenda. And if they don't show up, I mean,
I think that's the
If they don't
benefit.
show up, they don't show up.
It's the benefit of having a special meeting.
yeah, and I again, I don't disagree with that. I
Is there
disagree
anybody
with-
from the press on the Zoom meeting?
Rebecca?
No.
Okay.
You don't
Because
subscribe.
if we could have gotten
Nobody
something
else.
in the
The independent or the Carroll
independent or
County News?
the Carroll County. All right, let's take this one step at a time then. Let's, if somebody wants to make a motion that we approve the ordinance on the first reading, and then we can set the, once we take our vote, then we can set the time for the special meeting.
Make a motion, we approve regulation 2021-008 on the first reading.
So, second.
Ken made the motion, Jerry seconded it. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dumas,
Aye.
Councilmember Elwood,
Aye.
Councilmember Graves,
Aye.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Pittman.
Aye.
All right, motion passed on the first reading. Do we want to set a date for the special meeting?
I mean, I just do it a week from tonight.
A week from tonight?
Oh, I don't have any,
We can call a special meeting in 2 days, can't
Yeah, week
yeah.
from tonight's
we can,
good
but
for me.
It's a week after next week, I'm gonna be gone, but there'd still be a quorum.
Well, I'm gonna be gone week after next too.
Okay, well, then there wouldn't be.
Well, somebody pick a date.
A week from tonight would be fine, or a week from yesterday, any.
That would be the 22nd,
We
no,
can
the
deny the
24th,
24th.
excuse me.
I have a doctor's appointment in Fayetteville at 2:30, but I ought to be able to get back.
Well, we don't have to have a special meeting at 6 o'clock at night. We can have,
Good.
you know, we have the workshops at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Or we could have it in the morning.
Could do it in the morning.
That's
No,
a
it's
Tuesday,
gone.
so.
Except if, well, if you want the public here, you might
I
want to.
think we ought to have
6
that.
o'clock at night, 24th, 6 o'clock at night. Sound good?
Works for me.
Or would some, if they're working, would a little later be better?
No, 6 o'clock.
It's okay with me.
You're anticipating a big crowd?
No.
No. But I also don't want to be
Oh, no, I'm just,
Accused
Wes was
of-
saying that.
slipping this in on everybody. Whether,
We'll get it in Friday's e-newsletter, hopefully.
right. Okay. Hopefully we're doing you some good.
I think you
Absolutely.
will, thank you so much.
All right. Okay, I went over all of that. That's it for new business, public comments.
I have a couple of questions.
Can you get up to the podium and just for our benefit, who are you?
Okay, my name's Alex Markovich, 22 Mission Hills Lane.
Okay. Got any water leaks?
No, but I'm gonna give a clarification on that, that's the second part. Regarding the Department of Agriculture Infrastructure Survey,
Mhm.
were there any, I don't know what it entailed. I know you said everything, but is it just water or is it water and sewer?
All we addressed was water.
Okay, all right. So the next part of my question is, does our water system or the pumps, do they have emergency power?
Mhm.
And for how long?
There's they're diesel generators,
At every pump?
yeah.
Okay, so what is the coverage? Is it 2 days, 24 hours? How much diesel is stored in there that could allow the pumps to run?
I can't answer that.
I mean,
I don't have that information. You'd have to ask Danny Presley, the district manager, who would probably have to ask Dan Schrader, the water department guy.
Because I think it's something that's important and we should have it longer than, let's say, 24 hours.
Mhm.
You know, if you can get the funds, that's definitely important. Because if you're gonna go to a class 1 city, I think there are some federal requirements for water in the cities and also for the sewage in the cities. So, you know, if you can get it covered by a grant, hell, I think you should go for it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just something to think about.
Yeah. I'm sure that they have a plan. And I don't know what that plan is because I've never asked.
I've been asking, but I didn't ask the people you mentioned, and nobody knows, so. All right, the next question is, you mentioned that paving was, there won't be any paving for this year, but the second part of that question is, when they do the repairs on the water leaks, are they going to pave over those spots? Because that's not happening.
Mhm.
Only a few instances when somebody complained then it might happen.
And-
I mean, Mission Hills is pretty much open,
Yeah.
all the water leaks that we had.
I'm here again, that's the district, not the city, so I'm kind of
Well,
speaking.
that's why I was
out of turn
asking, because I didn't know if you mentioned the street funds, okay? I didn't know, and paving, I didn't know if that was part of the ICID or
Well,
the cities.
The city and the city and the district share responsibility for road maintenance. Primarily what the city is gonna do is the annual paving. The day-to-day
Okay.
maintenance is gonna continue
Okay.
with the district. But in defense of the district, they were very short-handed all summer. They just recently were able to hire a couple of guys.
Yes.
And I've noticed that there's a lot of pothole patching going on. A lot of road ditches got mowed recently and stuff. So they're trying to catch up, and they're well aware of the fact that Mission Hills is all cut up. And unfortunately, Linda, you and I were both on the board the year when we repaved all that up there, but we spent, a couple $100,000 repaving the streets up there, and then, the next week we started cutting holes in it.
Well, I wasn't sure, because at some spots they put in collars over the leaks, and some spots they were, replacing pipes, so I don't know how those decisions are being made or what's going on.
And I don't either. If it's a small leak, they'll put a clamp over it.
Okay, thank you.
You probably know more about the current status of the situation with the pressure relief valves going to Mission Hills than I do.
There aren't any pressure regulating valves for Mission Hills.
So it's
because
just
it's-
lousy pipes?
Yeah, basically. It's on,
Okay.
it's at the highest elevation of any water lines in Holiday Island, so
I
there's
guess that would be
no
true.
need to
It is on
regulate
that
the
ridge
pressure
top.
down.
It is on the ridge.
The problem on Mission Hills is, this is kind of anecdotal, I don't have hard data on this, but, first of all, you have to start with the way the water lines were put in. They ran a 6-inch main down Mission Hills, or down,
Hillcrest?
Hillcrest. They ran a 6-inch main from Holly Island Drive all the way down Hillcrest down to Mission Hills. And then, but they didn't hook anything up to it. And then they ran a 4-inch main on the other side of the street, and a 4-inch main all the way down Mission Hills, and hooked all the houses up to the 4-inch main. Don't know why. People are probably dead that made those decisions. But according to Dan Schrader, we really didn't have a lot of trouble with leaks in that area until we did the repaving. And he thinks that
Stirred up the
that
rocks?
the heavy street rolling, asphalt rolling equipment, combined with poor bedding probably, disturbed all those pipes and created the leaks. Because it's virtually, there's a whole street cut in front of practically every house in that whole area. And so it's not a pressure related problem. It's something else, it's something mechanical. And when he said that, that made me real nervous, because we got a lot of paving that we're planning on doing over the next few years, and if every time we put asphalt on a road, it's followed up by, months and months of fixing, or years and years of fixing water leaks, then I don't know what the answer to the problem is.
Go back to
How
check and
deep
see.
are those pipes? They're deep enough?
They're usually about 5 feet down, I think, 5 to
That
6
don't,
feet.
that don't make sense.
Doesn't hardly.
I mean, that's not that heavy equipment, I mean, that roller is the only thing that's.
I said it's anecdotal, I don't have any cause and effect data, but, it's sure, it's sure a fact that, well, put it this way, I don't think that Kenny would have agreed to pave, Hillcrest and Mission Hills if it had a history of chronic leak problems, and he had no problems with us doing the repaving in that area. But ever since then, it's been nothing but leaks. Although we haven't had that problem anyplace else where we put asphalt down, we haven't had leaks. So I think it may be the combination of the road work and the 4-inch line. We don't hardly ever have a leak on a 6 or 8 inch water main.
Well, thanks for that explanation.
Okay, next regular meeting is next month.
Mr. Mayor, we didn't ask for public comments on bullet 9.
Oh,
I don't know if
We
there's any
didn't do-
made.
yes,
We didn't.
are there
Oh, I'm
any
sorry, we did. We had.
We
put
didn't.
Alex
public
in.
comments though off of Zoom?
Let me see if there's anything on chat here. Okay.
We didn't do council member either.
I've said all I'm gonna say. I said I've said all I'm gonna say.
Okay. I don't see any hands raised or anything from the Zoom participants. So, we got one hand raised. Rebecca, you wanna unmute yourself? Or maybe she's gonna put it in chat. I'll look. Okay. She says, let me in on the phone. I don't know how to do that. We don't
She
have
said-
a phone. You just have to speak into the phone.
Yeah, I think so. There's not a mute.
It
on there.
appears there's a mute.
Can
I'm
you
gonna
unmute
say
the phone?
ask to unmute.
She
Here.
doesn't have a microphone, if I remember correctly.
Okay, her microphone looks active now. Can you speak, Rebecca? Not hearing anything. You want to type a question in chat?
You know, American Sign Language,
She says, I just dialed in.
how they know what.
Yeah, so she wouldn't be able to type me a message.
Okay. I don't see anybody waiting to join. Oh, there it is. There is one here. Okay, let me admit her. Okay. Now, got it? You're in.
I don't know how to answer that.
It's feedback from a microphone to another speaker.
We're getting feedback. I think I see this.
Is it coming, it's not coming from you, right? No, would you?
This is not working. Okay, I don't think that's working. Yeah, I can hear you now. Do you have your sound turned on or something else turned on?
She has a speaker that's playing into her microphone.
Yeah, you've got a speaker playing into your microphone. Yep. Why don't you just tell me what you want to say right now?
Well, let's see, when you read the ordinance about wards, you can
No, we didn't.
That was the time.
Did you have a public comment?
No, I'm done now.
Okay.
You can read what you didn't acknowledge when I was in there.
Our public comments is bullet 9.
You're taking public comments now.
Yeah, Jerry just said we're taking public comments now, so if you want to make a public comment, feel free.
Because the chats are not recorded in your mission. That doesn't keep the chats.
Yeah,
We'll lose them.
the chats are not kept on
And
file
Mr.
anywhere.
Markovich understood that the comments came now.
So, do you have any more comments? Did she leave? Yeah, she hung up the phone.
All
Okay.
right, let's move on then.
Oh, I got one.
You didn't do council member comments.
I got
Oh,
one
yeah,
council
you had
member.
one thing to bring up yet.
Yeah, it's not a big issue. Hi-Hi's been paying the
Meter.
the meter at the front entrance because we've always sponsored the Christmas tree lights. It's all been rewired now, and now I guess you've got street lights up there. It's not a big issue, but do we want to transfer that to the city, that responsibility for that meter? And to give it, I just got the bill for last month, it's $18.86, so,
Why would we do that?
because it's in the street.
Because it's street lights and city sign that HIHA is paying the electricity for.
Why would the district not? They do all the other.
Seems like a minor expense.
It's not,
Well, I know, it's
it's
minor.
not huge, I don't,
I'm just wondering why would we get into it? We don't do any.
It would, it would come out of the road fund, right? Street fund?
Wouldn't think so.
Street lights wouldn't come out of the street fund?
Street lights.
Street lights probably could, Christmas decorations and stuff, but it's all in the same.
it's all in the
It's
same
all the
circuit.
meter.
Probably could.
And if the city
I
doesn't
could
want,
check. I could
the
check.
city doesn't want to pay to power the streetlights, then I'll try to take it up with the district.
Well,
It's not a big
we can't-
issue.
I mean, we can't, really can't discuss it other than him bring it up. I have no problem voting to do it at some point.
Yeah.
I mean,
Are you making a motion that the city,
It's not on the
It's
agenda.
not on the agenda, I don't know that
No,
I can.
it's just a
I just
comment.
want to discuss it at this
Yeah.
point, how do we want to deal with that? There's another possibility, and we can bring it up, put on the agenda for next meeting or whatever. If the city wants to take over that meter and then present HIHA with the December bill and the January bill, or part of the January bill, and HIHA pay the difference, which would roughly reflect the Christmas lights. I don't care, it's just for discussion at this point in time. It's not a huge amount, and we've got it budgeted in HIHA, it's just, now that we've rewired it and you got the city light, the entrance lights on there.
As far as discussion about city lights, I think there's other intersections in our community that need lighting
Yeah,
personally. So I don't know where that's gonna, city's gonna fall on that, but. And we have some public areas down by the marina, there's just one light there, but it is one intersection. And the intersection isn't lit, just the parking lot is.
I mean,
which the city has no responsibility, short-term or long-term,
Okay.
for parking lots. The only streetlights that I'm aware of that are truly streetlights are those two up by the front end.
well, there's a whole bunch of them
They're
out
lit
here,
up here?
but they're not
They're
lit
are they
anymore.
working? I don't know.
They're
if
not,
those are
they're not
on.
working.
I just, do we want to venture into that?
That's why it's,
I could do some checking as to what fund it could come out of.
why don't we do some checking, and at the next regular meeting, if you wanna make a motion, then we'll let the council vote on it, up or down.
You know, are there intersections that have safety issues because they're not lighted?
Well, I don't want this to
Let's not
get
expand that.
mission creep here.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to deal with,
We'll pay.
we got one meter.
And that is an important intersection.
And the reason I brought it up is because it opens up the conversation for an intersection that's lit and the city's paying for it. So it does open up the opportunity for that discussion. It's not just on the sign, it's lighting that intersection,
I
right?
mean, you know, right now, the district does any outdoor lighting, the district's doing it.
I think that's a big leap from taking over the electric bill for two lights that have been there forever
Okay.
versus a study as to what other intersections in Holiday Island need lights, you know, that may be on the agenda at some point in the future. But I haven't heard of anybody complaining about unlit intersections, so.
Well, everybody puts, if they want a street light, most people put them up themselves.
I have a comment as well. The approaching Highway 23 goes past our front entrance, right? We call it the front entrance, or is it 62, 23? And the speed limit coming around that corner is much higher than the same highway going through Eureka Springs. We as a city, don't we have any input in how fast these traffic goes through our city? Because it's well within our city limits.
We can revisit it now that we are a city.
Okay.
When we were a district, we tried twice to get the state, the Department of Transportation, to reduce the speed limit. And they come out and do studies, and they say that a reasonable person would drive 45 miles an hour, that most people drive a reasonable speed even if there's no speed limit posted. And they call that the reasonable speed.
Well,
And they find that 45 miles an hour is the speed limit that a reasonable driver would drive past our front entrance, and
They don't.
they wouldn't,
They don't.
I think, I've thought about this issue too, because when I was on the board a long time ago, when we first got the speed limit up there, and they would not go under the 45 as a state.
but
It's
I
the same
can,
highway that goes through Eureka that they cut down to 35 and then 25 within their city limits.
I know.
I know.
And
And it's a crazy corner when people are sitting there trying to watch the traffic that's coming around the corner and up the hill, and people are being stomping on
you
brakes.
got the same thing up at the other end, people coming from,
From the
Missouri line, and there's a dip there, and if they're coming 60 and 70 miles an hour, and you're pulling out of, not Wolf, I mean, you can see them coming out of Wolf.
Right.
But the entrance into
into the commercial area.
in the commercial area, I mean,
I don't,
that's scary.
Mhm.
I think it would be, I don't know who you talk to. I don't know.
Arkansas Department of Transportation, probably.
Dan, you've talked to them before, haven't you? You've talked to
yeah,
them.
but it might be different now.
State
I don't
highway
know if
department.
the.
When we're a city, I think.
I'll have to find out what authority cities have over state highways running through the city.
I mean,
Well, you
before we
must
were,
have had some
before we
authority.
were just a rural area. I mean,
We may very well be able to set the
But
speed
it should
limit
have brought
going,
up to
coming through there.
$18.
And with that said, eventually, we're gonna have to pass an ordinance setting all of the speed limits and traffic signs and yield signs and everything else. Right now, that's all by county ordinance. We're going to have to write a city ordinance for that.
I have a question. Are we done with this issue, or are you gonna be able to look at that, or?
Was that the speed limit?
Yeah.
I can check.
Probably, You probably just ask Aaron, he probably would know.
I'll check.
But I've been through some other places that are not,
I'll call Butchberry and ask
And
them
they're
if they
30.
have any authority over the speed limits on Highway 23 or Highway 62.
Since it goes right through the middle of town, they probably do.
They got
62 slowed down.
They got two state highways running
Slow
through
down
their
there,
town,
though.
so.
I don't know, I've been through some little towns that, and the speed limit on the state highway is 35. And I don't remember where it was, I said, we need to look at that someday. Have you had any more feedback on the paving grant, or is it still?
That's waiting, the committee doesn't meet until February, so there's, as far as I know, we're gonna get the money.
I did talk to the circuit judge for,
Oh, yeah, I was gonna have you bring that up.
for Carroll and Madison County, and Dan
District.
asked,
District court,
District judge.
district court, all right.
not circuit court, district court.
Anyway, he said that, he had been following our progression, and, he had looked at some did some preliminary studies trying to figure out, how he could integrate us into the system. And there seems to be a whole multitude of different ways that, that they handle it. He explained to me about Green Forest where they have their own court. And so, but he said he would do some additional study and he would get back to us in a couple of weeks. So find out. So, and then at that time we would set up a meeting with him and find out.
Because eventually, when we start enforcing our own traffic laws and our own code violations and stuff like that, we will have to have an arrangement with the district court to handle those cases,
Yeah.
collect the fines.
I thought he lived in Berryville, he lives in Huntsville.
Yeah, I think I knew that. But I've never met the man, but I hear that he's a really good guy.
He was quite pleasant.
He's a very nice guy. I met him.
I've stayed out of trouble.
Okay, any other council member comments? All right. Next regular meeting is 9/20. We're gonna have a special meeting on 8/24. I'll try to get the agenda out for that ASAP. Any announcements? Hearing none, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Jerry made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Linda seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.